morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well on this lovely Friday, and I just want to introduce myself. My name is Sunday, spelled like the day, not the ice cream. You'd be surprised how many people actually ask me that question. And thanks so much for joining me as I speak with you about me and my take on this month's theme, vision. I want to start by first giving you a bit of background around me and what I am all about. So I am an emerging artist based in sunny Meanjin, and I've been making art since I was a kid. But I graduated from the Queensland College of Art in 2021. I'm a part-time designer. I love to rollerblade. I explore every single op shop I stumble across. I absolutely adore miniature schnauzers, especially the miniature kind. Miniature schnauzers, therefore, equals miniature. And I'm a strong advocate for colour and all things colourful and kitschy. I'm also a bit of a secret cinephile. Ranking and reviewing movies on Letterboxd is one of my favourite hobbies, so if you have a Letterboxd account, let's be friends. So when approaching today's theme, I started with just a general brainstorm associating words with vision, and I think there's a lot to draw conclusions from. But being a visual artist, the path became quite clear. The way I understand my experience in the world is through the visual medium and bringing things I see inside my head to reality. So this idea of visualizing is what I wanted to focus on today. And I know it is cliche, but I did look up a definition specifically for the word visionary, and I started to make some links between how I visualize my work and this idea of the visionary. So vision, viewing, and the viewer are a tale as old as time in the art world, considering who, what, where, and how your art is being viewed. The idea of perception, the idea of voyeurism. But I wanted to go a few steps back from before that art interaction between the viewer and the artwork to where the artwork is conceived. And when I read this definition, I kind of realized this is how I create work. And I would say that it probably applies to a lot of creatives. Images pop into your head that you have this indescribable urge to put into practice. For me, I fixate on a specific theme or idea and continue to work at it until the next one comes. I'm a very anxious person, and organisation and planning are my key tools to keep myself grounded. But when it comes to making art, I'm an avid non-planner. I find that planning an artwork tends to make it fail. I think if we lean into this supernatural aspect of making, we can truly cultivate the magic of art. But Sunday, I hear you all asking, how do I learn to become an artist? See visions of your work, or even see yourself here? I'm so glad you asked that question, guys. Oh my God, I'm gonna talk about it right now. So here's a quick timeline about me. Like many of you, I had career aspirations growing up. At 6, I wanted to be a veterinarian. At 12, I wanted to be a professional swimmer. I was training 7 days a week. I really thought I was going to the Olympics. And at 17, I was in this really weird limbo stage where I was leaning on my sporty background, but I still had a really big passion for the arts, but I didn't think it was a viable career option for me. And I thought, I don't know, nutritionist, that sounds stable. But after that reflection time, I ended up studying art, and looking at myself now, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I think that's an exciting and refreshing take to have, not to have such strict bounds on your future. Along with artist and designer, I want to adopt calling myself a visionary. not only to combat the intense imposter syndrome, but as a way to give credibility to the manifestations of my own ideas. But for the sake of today's prezzo, I'm gonna talk about myself in some different categories, starting with artist. When I started studying art at uni, I experimented with lots of different materials. I worked across painting, jewelry, ceramics, and sculpture. And I knew I loved working with colour and abstraction in this diverse materiality, but I didn't know what exactly it was that I was trying to say. I struggled a lot with figuring out what my perspective was and what the value was in my work. After my bachelor's, I did a year of honours research, and that's where I found play. It seemed blatantly obvious once I came across it, but it took a long time to get to that point. I knew that through this lens of play, I could start to see my work developing into something new. Instead of plastering meaning onto work that I was creating, I began to understand that the meaning was in the process of play and discovery. As the artist, I was facilitating these supernatural visions of play that I had within me. So this is my dissertation on play, and it's one of the most serious things I've ever done. And writing a whole 5,000-word dissertation on play was like the best thing ever. I really wanted to shed light on how play can be used as a tool to create accessible art experiences and prioritize joy first. Play taught me not to take me or myself too seriously, but now I can't stop talking about how important and serious play is. Play is so fickle and it's hard to grasp nature is what makes it so special. By the end of 2021, my research resulted in this body of work called the/my/our playground, a colourful installation of mixed media works that advocate for the importance of play in art history and in contemporary culture. This way of working opened up a whole new way of practicing and creating for me, and once I was able to visualise my work in this way, the wheels just kept on turning. Now for a little intermission on the artist side of things. I work under another title, designer, and as well as all of the shiny art photos from while I was studying in uni up until now, I needed to be able to sustain that practice with a stable income. And I started in administration in an architecture firm. But as I gained skills at uni doing visual art, they brought me into their design team, and I started doing marketing and communications. And then more recently, I moved into their signage design team. So here are some snips of work that I've done over the past few years with this firm. I've been able to extend my creative expression further beyond the intuitive way of traditional art making that I'm used to. And I had the opportunity to experiment with video editing, 3D animation, environmental graphics, and signage. You can probably see down here these signs. That's my first designed and manufactured project, and they're in the new Queen's Wharf precinct in the city, and there's some heritage interpretive panels about the air raid shelters that are across all of Brisbane. This was never what I saw myself doing, but it's equipped me with so many tools that have fed back into my artistic practice. So with all of these puzzle pieces, artist, designer, visionary, it makes sense to talk in terms of being a creative. So now I'm going to take you through some more of my recent work, as a creative and how all of these aspects have intertwined. In 2023, I had my first ever solo show, and this was facilitated through Next Door ARI on the Gold Coast. And for those who are unaware, an ARI is an artist-run initiative, so an organisation by artists for artists. This show that I did was called Hullabaloo, and it was an opportunity for me to bring an idea that I had bubbling away in my head to life. The premise was a reflection on a family heirloom. So there was this suite of 8 crocheted blankets made by my great-grandmother for her grandchildren. So for my mother and her 7 siblings. Each blanket was carefully crafted with specific colours in mind for each child. And I was deeply inspired by this immense amount of labour and love. The exhibition responded to these heirlooms using the colours of the blankets and the concept of a granny square used in crochet. So squares were a repeated motif throughout all of the work. I enveloped the gallery in a giant blanket of my own creation, welcoming viewers into this space of comfort and reflection. I fell in love with squares during this process, and it has been inexplicably tied to my practice and process making ever since. But after working towards a big project like this, you tend to experience burnout, and I had a bit of a break at the end of 2023, but after some rest and relaxation, a new era for my art making was ushered in, and with time, I found my direction. Now enters the fish era. I don't know if you could tell, but I'm a little bit obsessed with fish. And in this down period of the end of 2023, I had one of these so-called visions for my next body of work. I had an idea to make work responding to the rainbow fish picture book. And I've been working with imagery of fish for the longest time. I've always been so fascinated by them, but I never knew how to integrate them into my practice until I had this vision. Soon after I had that moment of realization, I was graciously offered a 6-month residency at the Hope Street studio, which was just off of Fish Lane. And this residency was supplied by the Griffith University Art Museum and Aria Property Group. And it couldn't have been more perfect, and I knew it was a sign that perhaps my visions were indeed supernatural. And with a new studio and inspiration, I fell into a making frenzy, experimenting, playing, and making in a way that was freed from having a specific outcome. During my residency, I developed work for my next solo show about fish, the first ever affordable art fair in Brisbane, and I hosted an artist talk and also ran a badge making workshop. But as the end of the residency drew to a close, I was worried about where to relocate my studio to. I had gotten sick of, I didn't want to go back to the idea of working in my garage because I had this beautiful space and I wanted to figure out how I could continue to cultivate my practice in that way. But again, another piece just fell into place. Right as this residency was finishing, a studio space at Herespace, a new co-working artist studio in Wollongabba, popped up. And let me tell you, when I found out this studio was located on Fisher Street, I knew it was meant to be. And during this time, I was contacted by the lovely Laura Brennan for Paradise Gloss, which was the next outdoor gallery program for Brisbane City Council. And without knowing, Laura had curated my work into Fish Lane. I was bewildered. And this work is currently up at the moment, along with a suite of others all across the Brisbane CBD. up until the 3rd of November. So if you haven't had a walk around, I would highly recommend. And this was my first ever public art project. And what a fun one, celebrating play. So back to all things fishy. Once I knew I wanted to explore the rainbow fish, I ran to the bookstore to secure a copy. And when reading it, it became clear how fraught with queer allegory this book was. With a new lens, I found that drawing out isolated sentences from the book could serve as a tool to unveil and explore the queer experience. Specifically, the process of reckoning with your identity and sorting through the self that you create for protection, and your true self. This was the first painting I did after rereading the book, and I felt it captured this idea perfectly, but in a very melancholic way. I started teasing out the balance between kitsch aesthetics and nostalgia associated with the rainbow fish. The exhibition resulted in an installation of work at Recker's Art Space, littered with references to fish and identity. Along with the body of work, I curated a zine to accompany the show. Diaries of a Rainbow Fish was the name of the zine and the show. And in this little book, I had 4 different writers from across the city respond to the exhibition of work in their own way and all in different writing styles. This little zine was my way of disrupting the traditional model of an exhibition, the body of work in the gallery in a lengthy exhibition essay. Instead, I created my own little picture book to tell the story of the show. So I thought I'd do a live reading of one of the pieces by Amy Collins. She's also a local artist, and she wrote a beautiful poem, so I'm just going to turn my back so I can read the screen. Rainbow fish, sad, sparkles, alone. What good is dazzling? What good is shimmering in loneliness? I hope I'm beautiful, but I don't really know. I feel like disappearing into the darkness, into my loneliness. The light touch of a glittering fish. Playful and bubbling, I was confused. How did they love having shimmering scales? Their friendship brought with it a glimmer of hope. Happy as a splash at last, I thought, I found a home, comfortable in the knowledge that my sparkle didn't shame me anymore. I just wanted to thank Amy again for writing this beautiful piece of work. And soon after this show completed, it wasn't finished just there. Now this work has made its way into Fish Lane as well. The true centre of my universe is Fish Lane at the moment, and the exhibition has been reinterpreted for the vitrine spaces in Fish Lane Town Square, and are available to visit until the 25th of November. If you're not super sick of me after this morning, I will be at the IMA Zine Fair tomorrow, selling copies of Diaries of a Rainbow Fish, as well as some other special goodies. The whole fair is about promoting self-publishing, along with lots of other local creators in the city. And if you want to get your hands dirty, I'll be hosting a free drop-in workshop on the 16th of November, also in Fish Lane, for my vitrine activation. This workshop's called the Fish Library, and we will all be making our own fishy friends out of felt adorned with sequins and beads. And the idea is that we'll be swapping them at the end, either with another participant or with myself. And like the rainbow fish, we'll be giving away our rainbow scales for others to enjoy. And that's about all I had for you this morning. Thank you for listening. I hope after my rant, we can all adopt this idea of being a visionary. Lean into your creative urges, have faith in your ideas, and believe in the magic of play. Thank you.